What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and for the last month I've been working on one major project. I've been trying to figure out why exactly it seems like gamers all over the world seem to hate the Xbox One. To start my investigation, I started out by launching a series of videos talking positively about the Xbox. I've always been a fan of the system, but I use my PlayStation 4 a lot more, especially for reviews. So I came out with a couple topics that were specifically defending this console just to see what kind of backlash or comment sections I would get. Well, the response is way crazier than anything I could have ever imagined. I had people that were mass unsubscribing with a couple topics, or all of a sudden all these Xbox fanboys were flooding in and starting humongous wars down in my comment section, and I even got my longest message ever, a several thousand word essay about why I am scientifically incorrect to think that the Xbox One isn't completely failing. This has all been incredibly fascinating to me, so I wanted to dig just a little bit deeper, and I think I've discovered the three main reasons that people seem to hate this console, despite the fact that, let's face it, it's pretty much the exact same thing as the PS4. Starting off, we gotta talk about what's really the most important. It's got no games. These words are said a lot, and you know what? These are actually the most dangerous words in all of gaming. As soon as that's attached to your system, you're basically screwed. It's got no games is a phrase that single-handedly killed the PSP, which is funny because I actually have a huge PSP collection. It's one of my favorite handhelds. It's got RPGs, action games, actually really good shooters, everything you could want could be on that system. But they didn't market it very well right at the start, and so because of it, nobody even bothered researching if it actually had games. So therefore, it got the stigma that it's got no games. Now Xbox One is stuck in the same space. At the beginning, they were trying so hard to bring in outside developers and do anything they could to reach out and bring more IPs to their console that they ended up not properly advertising them, or even worse, they started trying to spread themselves too thin. Right now, as of 2017, Microsoft seems really focused on putting everything on the Xbox One on PC. Going along with the it's got no games philosophy, there's also the problem that things that launch on the Xbox One prove very clearly that they sell way worse than you ever could have imagined. Take a look at Rise of the Tomb Raider. This was arguably one of the best adventure games outside of Uncharted in the last 5 years, but unfortunately it flopped. But not only that, it basically flopped twice. When it originally came out on the Xbox One, it was a console exclusive for the first year, and while it was picked up a little bit, it didn't do that great, so they managed to repackage it and sell it on the PlayStation 4 as the Ultimate Edition, and it bombed again. At this point, people had already thought of it as this Xbox game that was betraying its original fan base and coming over here to the PlayStation. It's really crazy to think that, but I saw those exact words on forums. People were feeling that they were being disingenuous by buying Rise of the Tomb Raider, despite the fact that it is an amazing game that everybody should play. Seriously, they're making another one right now that rumor has it is going to be called Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I'm extremely excited for it. Honestly, it looks like it's going to be amazing, but knowing the fact that the last one bombed, I'm afraid that this is going to have the Xbox One stigma on it and fail as well. The number 2 reason for why the Xbox One is so hated is I think it's the fact that it's slightly weaker. Now, it's not noticeably weaker. In fact, if you put something that's 900p versus something that's 1080p on a screen, 99% of people can't tell the difference. One of my favorite games of all time is Alan Wake, and I think that ran at 600p. It's hardly even considered high definition, but you know what? I beat that game like 6 times, and never once did I think, man, I feel like I'm smearing mud in my eyes with these bad graphics. The average person can't tell the difference between 900p and 1080p, which are what these two consoles are basically putting out. But it's very obvious that the Xbox One is weaker hardware because it has bad frame rate on some projects. If you're going to be buying cross-platform projects on either the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, one of these is the clear winner. It's obviously going to look better on the PlayStation 4. but they have the same price tag. If you have a choice between getting an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4, it's pretty obvious that you should probably get the PlayStation 4. It's a better deal, and it's going to look better on there. This tiny talking point, though, was immediately latched onto by all the early adopters of the PlayStation. The people who were wanting to get the PS4 on launch day wanted to be able to have something to brag about. Because you gotta remember, when these consoles first came out, they both had very small handfuls of games. So that was the one thing that they could really lock onto. You know what, bro? You may have a cool controller on Xbox Live, but you know what we have? Higher resolution. A talking point like that doesn't seem that major, but it really worked, and it really helped them get an early start in this console race, and unfortunately, that still follows them to this day. When I try and talk about the Xbox One, I notice that people in the comments section will honestly say, it's got the worst graphics. They'll say it has the worst graphics, even when I'm comparing it to stuff like the Wii U. The Xbox One is not that underpowered, but in the general consumer's eyes, it's extremely bad. This last reason that I think the Xbox One is still so overwhelmingly hated is something that I really dug into. I actually watched a lot of videos on this, and I dug into the history of the Xbox One's launch. And I've realized that from the gate, as soon as it came out, people were very negative about it because it seemed like Microsoft was negative about it. Their initial launch was very badly done. This guy named Don Mattrick was the head of the Xbox division at the time, before Phil Spencer took over, and he was crapping on everybody. The original Xbox One was going to be online only, not have used games, all sorts of really unconsumer friendly options. And when fans were very concerned about this, they voiced it. And Don Mattrick basically told them to shut up. He even started tweeting out #dealwithit. He wanted people to stop talking or even complaining or giving any sort of feedback. This was really the wrong move. People started selling their entire Xbox 360 collections to send a message to him specifically that they weren't going to be jumping on the Xbox bandwagon ever again. I think that's part of the reason that the PlayStation 4 had such a strong launch, because people were trying to stick it to the fact that they thought that this company didn't like them anymore. That might seem like a really minor issue, but man did it snowball over time. The fact that they were trying so hard to force people to get the Kinect, the fact that they were making their console more expensive at launch without really having anything majorly different. The Xbox One, right off the bat, started seeming like the console that you would buy just to show off. It's the fancy console you keep in your living room and you plug a DVR box into. It has more options, but not necessarily more options when it comes to gaming. That ended up really hurting it, and I think that it's actually a piece of messaging that still haunts them to this day. Xbox One is made from the ground up to make gamers happy. Backwards compatibility, more digital options, indie games, early access. So much about Xbox One is made to make us happy, and honestly, I'm very happy with my system. But looking around, clearly, less and less people share this sentiment. So, I hope that this sheds some light on why exactly the Xbox One is still so freaking hated. It may honestly be one of the most hated consoles of all time, which is just bizarre to think about because it's really not that bad. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. This has been another rant by DreamcastGuy. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I'm not sure if you can see it, but this shirt actually is something I got from one of the first PlayStation 4 events ever. I managed to get invited to a special thing where you could play the Order 1886 way before release. It even says the order on my back. And, yeah. So let's not forget that the PlayStation 4 has made some pretty bad mistakes as well, including this. Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.